Hello, everyone. Today I am talking about Marathon and the Marathon series as a whole. I thought I might as well. This game was the first game series made by Bungie. It was exclusively on the Apple II computer. However, if you want to play today, you can just download it for free for Windows. And yeah, I thought I'd get into this FPS because I'm a huge Halo fan, obviously, and I wanted to see, the lore, the story, and also the fact that, hey, yeah, there's I mean, after I finished beating Marathon Infinity, the new Marathon, game was announced by Bungie, and apparently it's going to be nothing like, this game, but obviously it's been, so long, but apparently it's going to focus a lot more on like extraction shooters and kind of a more multiplayer focus, which I don't really enjoy. But yeah, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about all three games, Marathon Durandal, and Marathon Infinity, and just kind of talk about my experience, and that I don't really like Marathon. I thought, oh wow, a Doom clone boomer shooter by Bungie before they make Halo, that would be really cool. Not really. My issue is with a lot of these levels in Marathon is that, I love the atmosphere of Marathon. It is very cool. And you get things like pistols and shotguns and grenade launchers and all that kind of good stuff. Also alien guns, you could pick up alien guns and stuff. But my main issue with it is that the objective for the level is sometimes not very clear. Usually you just go through a level, you get to the end terminal, and you're good. And sometimes that's what the level is. Like, you just go through it and, you kind of get to the end and you're fine. But sometimes they expect you to go back to the beginning terminal. And so more than any other like shooter or like a game in like a while, I got really, really stuck in a lot of these levels. I was like, I went in through the whole map, I killed everybody, and it's like, am I missing like a certain, thing I was supposed to get, a certain switch I had to hit? Did I need to get a combination of switches? Do I need to go back to the beginning after I've done all this stuff and really go back? And very unintuitive, just level design where it's like, okay, so I really have to go back now? So, that's pretty much what it is. What's really cool about Durandal is that technically it's the first game with dual wielding. However, you just kind of get two guns of the same type when you pick them up. Essentially, you have dual wielding pistols in the sequel, and so that kind of idea definitely went back into Halo 2, definitely. And so you also have the main assault rifle from this game, which is definitely based on the assault rifle from Halo, so it's a fully automatic weapon, but it does have an underbarrel grenade launcher attachment with it always, which is pretty cool. The explosions in these games are pretty, all right. The aliens kind of have this, similar style to the Covenant, where they're very tall and aquiline and very strange. Another thing that I'm not sure they really borrowed or brought into Halo is that the weird zero-G gravity is kind of a big thing, and yeah, I can kind of see why crouch jumping and grenade jumping would be such a big thing, because you can't necessarily jump very high, but when you run off a platform, you barely fall at all. And so it's this very weird type of like movement that is very unusual to me. Again, this game plays more or less like Doom, but just Bungie edition. And the other thing that I really enjoy about the game is the conversations you have with the AI and the other characters in the game. For example, the main story of Marathon, and it was kind of hard to tell and convoluted because there are no cutscenes. There is only like, and there's no voice acting. There is only like text on screen. And sometimes it's very difficult to tell exactly what is going on and where you are and all that kind of stuff like that. But yeah, essentially, I think the scope of Marathon is you're on a colonist ship and it's been invaded by aliens. And so you basically have a couple of human AIs. And what happens is the AIs are trying to help you fight against the aliens. But then what happens is an alien AI infects the ship and tries to take over the human AI, and then it merges with it, and instead that AI then turns against the aliens and you, and it uses you as a pawn against the aliens. So very similar in the original Halo, when Guilty Spark and Cortana are basically warping you around the ring in order to, kind of make you be their pawn and get you to kill who they need to kill. That kind of theme is also in this game as well. And so a lot of time you'll just be transported to other places, but again, the scope of where you're going and where you are throughout the entire Marathon series is very hard to tell. Sometimes when you look up, the spaceship windows, you can just see nothing usually, and the only difference really is that you're on a human ship or an alien ship, and it's very hard to tell exactly, again, where on the ship you are. Another weird thing about the game, I'm not sure if maybe I just didn't get the controls right, but I couldn't figure out a way to reload my gun. You kind of had to use up a whole clip in order to reload it. And so that was sometimes a very pesky problem, and to the matter. What's also cool about the aliens themselves is that they are divided into different color coding effects. So you'll have, green, blue, red, and then I think silver maybe. And so that's very similar to the elite coloring code in the original Halo. And so back to the story. So in the second game, Durandal basically takes over, and basically he sabotages both you, because you were just again another generic Marine or whatever, and he also the aliens themselves. The second game is really about you fighting Durandal and surviving the wrath of this rogue AI that wants you dead. And in the course of that game, there's another alien AI that comes into play and is fighting Durandal, and they basically are fighting each other. And so you have to switch sides between which AI you're serving. You don't have a choice, but it just happens. And then finally, Marathon Infinity, apparently it takes place way after the events of Durandal, or in another timeline or something. I was again very confused by it. But essentially in that one, I forget if it's that one or another game, but essentially what's really interesting is the aliens also have, again, very much like the Covenant, there's different races that have come together to form this collective front, and very similar to, honestly, 12er Shia Islam. They believe that there's a one race of aliens is fighting all the other ones, and so this self or something, or the sylph, and so they believe in the hidden final, the 12th hidden ship, or artifact or something, or AI. And so you basically help them uncover it, and that basically gives them the motivation to take on the other aliens and defeat them on your behalf. Another thing that I also liked a wink at was that one of the ships was called the Roxanante, which is based after the horse from Don Quixote, which I just thought was a very weird, funny little reference. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's nice that they had it there. I always got the feeling that the Bungie game designers were extremely good, or extremely well-read and good writers. And it always really impressed me, with the terminals. And so you definitely did have terminals in, Halo 3. And I felt like what replaced terminals in the previous two games was just the weird dialogue the Guilty Spark would have in between battles, talking about the Forerunners and the ancient stuff amidst your gunfire, which you're trying to focus on. And I just like that he's lore dropping as you're trying to fight, and you kind of miss a lot of important stuff. But very similar to the terminals in Halo 3 are the terminals here in Marathon, and they give you little insights into the lore of the world. They really give you a flavor of what this universe is like, and again the kind of sadistic nature of Durandal and some of the other AIs, and how they're basically toying with you and turning you into their little science experiment, essentially. What's also interesting is sometimes you'll come across a terminal and it just gave you an account of a Roman battle with Gaul, and you're like, okay. I absolutely love it how you just have these weird drops of history in the middle of the game just for no reason. Again, I love that they just kind of put that in there. It gives it a weird mythological, sense to it, that something beyond your comprehension is really going on, that something beyond time and space and history is occurring. Just really, really cool. Oh, something I forgot to mention is the main colony ship that you're on is called the Marathon. And of course, there are certain tropes that I find in, future Bungie games. For example, there's one part where all of the humans get infected, and the closer they get to you, they basically explode similar to flood carriers. And what's really messed up is there's one section where you need to discern the good humans from the bad ones. And so there are innocent ones and evil ones. When you get too close to them, they blow up and they kill the other humans. So yeah, it's very similar to the flood and a lot of other kind of concepts that Bungie has in their later games. Again, mechanically, the games are not that much different from each other from game to game. Marathon 1 does have a weird kind of perspective problem where it's a little bit more zoomed in, like the Wolfenstein series. And the future games to have, more weapons and dual wielding, all this stuff. But fundamentally, on a mechanical level, they're pretty much all the same. And the enemies pretty much react almost the same as well. Same sound effects, whatever. I don't know. This whole game as series just felt very mid to me. There wasn't anything about it that I was like, oh, wow, that's super interesting or cool. I think the only thing it does better than perhaps the Halo series is the use of the lore and the writing. You get a real feel for what this AI is like and how it's being changed by the alien AI and how it's developing into this other thing. Another really cool thing is learning a bit more lore about Halo and how a lot of the lore in this game is based off of the Song of Roland. So Durandal or Durandante is based off one of the knights from the Song of Roland, and it does mention that in the game. This is where this guy is mentioned. And what's another cool thing is that one of the famous swords in the stories, and it's kind of like the French version of King Arthur, but it's not Excalibur, but the name of the main sword in the game is called, or in the lore, in the legend, is called Cortana. And so suddenly you get all of these cool chills, like, oh, okay, I see. This is where they were going. This is where they got this from. So yeah, there's a lot of cool references and a lot of cool background to Halo. But this game, itself as a experience wasn't really great. It's kind of a mid shooter. It's okay. And the music is not good. That's the biggest, I think, issue. The music is really just kind of cheesy and repeats and is not very good at all, to the point where I put on my own music. And the games are decently long. I ended up playing a lot of these just during the colder months inside when I didn't have anything else to do. There are certain levels where you need to refill your O2 when you go outside into space or underwater. And again, the level geometry just never gets really interesting. Halo has really interesting level geometry because you're on this fake ring world. But in here, even on the alien ship, it's a nice change of pace, but it doesn't, it has its one theme, one style, and that's kind of it, unfortunately. Some other things that, like Halo, you do have a motion sensor, which is honestly very useless. I've never really used the motion sensor a lot. It was kind of oh yeah, cool, that's there, but I never really utilized it a lot. There are also cool little upgrade or health packet places similar to Half-Life where you can upgrade your health temporarily, so you have one red health bar. You can find a yellow charging station. You can put a yellow bar on top of that, and a purple one if you can find on top of that. So you can have 3 total health bars in total, at least in Marathon Infinity. And the last final thing I might say about this is the last game, Marathon Infinity, and what its implications are really, really interesting. And the last kind of piece of information on the game as you're beating it is that, oh, I knew you would come to this point. I knew you would be the one to kind of fulfill, this story because of all the possible outcomes. You were the one. It's essentially saying that, you're the gamer. You have the save file. You have essentially the chim, and you're able to transcend time and space and, all possibilities to come to this one conclusion. And so you are the one who was foretold you are destiny. And that's how the game ends. And again, that's another one of Bungie's games. And I know. So this was a really cool thing, diving into the past, seeing all these cool Easter eggs. I hope Marathon honestly gets a remake and a remaster or something. Because as far as I know, the Marathon that's coming out is not anything like this game series. It's not going to be even single player. It's going to be a multiplayer only focused extraction shooter. And so I was just oh, darn. Okay. But yeah, overall, I think it'd be really cool if they remade this game series, because you have enough building blocks. I mean, Bungie's a very successful, well, done studio. I think it'd be really cool to actually get a remake of these games, because again, they're not bad, but there's so much more they could really do with this IP. And something else I've also noticed in general is that the Marathon art is really, really good. Like, very interesting, very iconic, very distinct. A little bit gory at times, but very mysterious and very cool looking. Anyway, that's, I think, all I have to say about the Marathon games for now. Give them a shot if you want, but, they are still kind of rough, and at the end of the day, they are kind of mid experiences. I did like the theme of Durandal, though, the second game. That was a real bop, but aside from that, the music is not great, so... yeah, I don't know. Play it your own discretion, I suppose. Anyway, I'll see you later, guys. Bye-bye.